Well, I reviewed the first one, so I guess I have to do the same here. Yay. So I saw Moana 2. Boy, oh boy, did I sure see it. It was in fact a movie that I watched. Okay, that's my whole review. See you later. Okay, let's talk about this. Yeah, so Moana 2 came out and I went to see it. It was just kind of bland, if I'm being honest. Like, it's obviously no Shrek 2 sequel, but it's also not a Cars 2 sequel. It didn't really hurt the overall story or anything, but didn't really advance it either too much. Oh, yeah, and spoilers, by the way. There you go, you've been warned. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start off with the strengths, and then we'll go to the weaknesses, so the pros and cons. So the pros are, firstly, Tamatoa. Second, they brought back Tamatoa again. And third, this one's really important, they had Tamatoa in the post-credits. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, I was very, very happy to see Tamatoa. He is such a fun character, and I unironically love him in his Disney villain ways. But I don't want to get too into that. This is about the actual movie, so let's talk about the actual film, I guess. Alright, firstly, let's start off with the animation. It wasn't too bad with the animation, even though I'm pretty sure it was a different studio that did it and it wasn't an in-house studio. It still holds up pretty well and looks pretty similar to the original, even if a little bit more cartoony, but it wasn't too terrible. It still seemed to have vibrant colors and it definitely holds up. If you want to see good animation in the first movie and bad in the second, watch Megamind and then Megamind 2. So yeah, compared to that, this is pretty good animation. Then you got world expansion. It definitely felt like they expanded the world in this movie. I mean, the brand new island we see Maui actually pull up, the new island Moana is exploring at the beginning, and the new underworld areas all feel natural. They all feel like natural expansions of the real world from set piece to set piece. And finally, it doesn't ruin Moana. Some movies ruin franchises. Cars was a pretty grounded, not too terrible first film. Cars 2 absolutely destroyed its reputation and the reputation of the director, who has made amazing stuff even though this was a giant pile of shit. But like other sequels, Moana 2 doesn't really hurt the overall story of Moana, and it doesn't betray the characters of the story. It's really just harmless. Yeah, that's about all I got. I really tried to think of all the good aspects, but I couldn't get too many without thinking about the weaknesses and the cons, and now that we're here, let's talk about the cons and the weaknesses. Buckle up. Alright, first and foremost, the pacing. Okay, I was going to read this really fast because I was going to match it to the movie, but I don't think I can, especially with how fast the movie went. One of the many things I hate about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the horribly slow pacing and like 12 other things, but that's for another time. It really felt like this was on the opposite end of the spectrum. It felt like this movie just kind of wanted to rush to the next thing every single shot. I'm being dead serious when I say I think that over 3/4 of the movie's shots lasted like 2 to 3 seconds at most. The jokes were hurt by the pacing, especially because the jokes never had time to breathe. I genuinely got a little bit dizzy whenever Moana got back to the shore at the beginning of the movie to her dad making that hair flip joke. Like, I barely saw the characters that made the joke work because they were on screen for like half a second. The scenes altogether don't really slow down to sink in and have any depth, which brings me to emotion. Yeah, this movie really lacks in the emotion department, I gotta be honest. Firstly, Moana and Maui had very compelling internal struggles that were evident in the first movie. In this one, they're just kind of sailing and fighting people, and, you know, that's it. That's pretty much the whole thing. There doesn't seem to be too much emotional turmoil, and it makes the characters feel a bit one-note, one-dimensional. Not that they are, but, you know, not in a one-dimensional like Calhoun from Big Hero 6, but, you know, just kind of bland, which is hard to do in a Moana movie of all things. There was only one small part of the movie I felt any actual emotion, and that's when the grandma and the ancestors came to Maui who was holding Moana to help her out. I felt a little bit of emotion at that point, but that was the only time. And then we have the side characters. Oh boy. Here's a cookie if you can name me any of the 3 side characters. Go on, try. Go ahead and try. Here's my guess. One is good with maps and stories. I'm gonna call him Earl. One is old and grumpy and, you know, that's it. I'm gonna call him Billy. And the one girl is smart and knows about science and boats and stuff and doesn't shut up. Her name is Samantha. I don't know. Did I get any of them right? I don't know. I don't know. Look, the only impact that any of these three have in the movie is when the guy who plays the smaller version of Maui reads the Kakamura's tapestry or whatever it's called to let the others know what was going on. I mean, you could cut the other two out of the story and it wouldn't make too much of a difference. You could even cut this guy out of the movie and it wouldn't make too much of a difference. They felt so one-dimensional and flat and ultimately forgettable. I really don't know what else they accomplished in the movie other than just being there. Then we got the new not villain character? Yeah, that one girl who, like, had Maui trapped at the beginning, the one whose name I also don't know. She was alright. She was definitely one of the better parts of the movies, but, you know, her biggest contribution being the best song in the movie, which isn't saying too much, but I'll get to the songs here in a second. I could not for the life of me figure out what her motives were, which you'd think would be a good thing, but it just makes things confusing. I think she's a villain when Maui is trapped, then she meets Moana and is like, hey, take risks, girl. And then she's like, okay, Maui, here you go do your thing. And we don't really see her until a glorious Tamatoa part. So she was kind of confusing overall. She was just confusing, you know, not a bad character, just confusing and forgettable also like the side characters. But she's a pedestal above, I would say. Is that the word? Is that the word? Pedestal? She's a little bit above. And then there's the songs. Oh boy. Yeah, you can definitely tell Lin-Manuel Miranda was not on this one. I was really hoping I would walk out of the theater and not even notice he was gone, but that was pretty wishful thinking. The songs basically sounded the same as the last one. You got the opening song that shows where they start. The call to action song that establishes a character's motivation. The upbeat, fun kind of villain song in the middle. The surprisingly lame Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson rap song. And the conclusive "We Did It" song. By the way, I'm not calling "You're Welcome" lame. That's actually one of the better parts of the movies. But the one in the second one that he raps, they don't even give him time to sing. He just raps. Like, he can sing if you give him a chance to, but they didn't give him a chance to. I don't know. Unfortunately, while the melodies and instrumentals are fantastic, the lyrics are basically if ChatGPT made them up. They're so basic and generic, you could apply them to any other movie and it would probably work. And finally, the director. You could tell Ron and John didn't direct this one, and it really shows. Unfortunately, it just wasn't the grand return we were all expecting, but I guess it's passable. It wasn't a Cars 2, but it wasn't a Shrek 2. It wasn't a bad sequel, but it wasn't a great sequel. The closest thing I can give to this is Finding Dory to Finding Nemo, but don't get me wrong, Finding Dory was way better. Yeah, that's all I got. Not bad, but kind of disappointing, especially considering how high the pedestal was set from the first Moana movie. I don't know, 6 out of 10. Disney, if you want Moana 3 to be any good, hire back the 3 mad lads that made Moana good in the first place. Also, fire and replace most of your corrupt corporate higher-ups, but, you know, what are you going to do? That's also wishful thinking. Okay, now back to the dungeon to work on my other videos. See ya. Should I wait? Should I do that like girl who was like eating Hawaiian food or Mexican food or something and she just let out some random yell? I'm gonna find that video and I'm gonna end this video with that. Here you go.